Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb. How do you and I approach the table of the Lord? I must admit, I'm always startled by today's gospel, this exchange between Jesus and the Canaanite woman. I think from our vantage point, it seems harsh. How could Jesus be so dismissive and haughty? He comes off as utterly superior to this Canaanite woman. First, Jesus ignores her. The woman came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not even say a word to her. Then what? Annoyed by the woman, the disciples come and beg Jesus, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." Now, how does Jesus respond? Well, he says with her right there in their company, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But amazingly, she persists, "Lord, help me." We might think the Lord will certainly oblige her now, right? But rather, Jesus gives this response. It's not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs. I think it's here that most of us simply walk away bewildered from this account. We sort of ignore it or move on. Maybe we just go to the next page of the gospel, sort of embarrassed that Jesus was recorded acting and speaking in this way. But that would be a mistake, to simply pass over this account. Because in fact, if we sit here, delve in, this is a most beautiful treasure for us to understand. This truth that is coming out from this exchange. Blessed are those called to the supper of the Lamb. Blessed are those who are called to the table of the Lord, the Master. Just invite us to imagine, think of the most exquisite banquet table, the table of the Lord. And Jesus Christ, the Master, is at the head of this table. He has the most abundant feast of all he has to offer. And indeed, you and I here, we have a place set and prepared for us at this table. But to ask the question, how could we receive such a spot? We who are mere creatures, to be invited to such a place, elevated to such a place. Many of us here perhaps are dog lovers. We might even admit that we treat our dogs better than they deserve. Maybe we give them a lot of attention. We might even let them live in our homes, sort of like members of our family. We might spend a fair amount of time talking to them. And some of us go as far as to let them come and sit next to us on our furniture, kind of like one among us, almost like equals. But even among the greatest dog lovers, I've never experienced going to someone's home who has a dog, who loves their dog, who sets a place for them to eat at the dinner table. Could you imagine going into someone's home, where as the host, they set a place for you and for their dog? We think, this is absurd. to invite the animals to have a chair alongside the owner and to eat at the same table. And yet, that is the profound gift that you and I, as Catholic Christians, have been given by our God. How we have been raised up to a place that we have no real right to be. We creatures, we have no right to sit alongside our Creator, our Master, but we've been elevated, brought up to the table, made beloved sons and daughters of God. And so this account here, it has this treasure for us to recognize the humility and the gratitude that we ought to have. And now hear these words between Jesus and the Canaanite woman. It's not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs. The emphasis here isn't so much that dogs are bad, but that the master at his table is so much higher and superior. And further, among us children who have been called, elevated to the table, it's not because we are so good, but because the master is so humble and generous to make some of us his very own. That's the gift of baptism. Becoming sharers in God's very nature and being able to share in his very life. And indeed, how good is our God for us to have that humility, that gratitude, to express what a gift it is to have been elevated to the table of the Lord.